Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm going to be talking about a subject that a lot of people will definitely disagree with me on. But yeah, this is my take on it. And this is going to be why I am against birth control and why I feel that it is immoral. Okay, so before anyone accuses me, I'm not trying to argue for a law that bans birth control. This is my personal beliefs on why I feel that it's immoral. And this video is only going to address the topic of taking birth control to prevent pregnancy. I'm not speaking about using it for medical reasons. So before anyone says, well, I have to take it because this, and this, I'm not speaking of that. I'm talking about the intentional prevention of pregnancy. And I'll make a case for why I feel that it's immoral. Okay, let me get right into it. Reason number 1, it's just not natural. Sex, by design, is naturally for reproduction. And so, using contraceptives to prevent this process is going against a beautiful design that God actually created. And before anyone says, oh, but sex is not just for making babies, like, I'm not claiming that it is, but what I'm saying is that reproduction is a very important reason, and I think to intentionally go against this design, I believe that's wrong. And like, look at how backwards society really is on this. They have this idea that sex is only safe sex if it goes against what sex is naturally for to begin with. And I think that's ridiculous and stupid, honestly. And I don't think that people who have that idea in their mind have really thought it through. Sex is only safe sex if it goes against what it's designed for in the first place. I mean, really think about that. Because that's not normal that we have this idea as a society. Okay, so reason number 2. Children are a blessing. They're not an inherent burden to be prevented. And I hold this strong conviction that we should never have this idea that a pregnancy is ever unwanted. A child is always a blessing from God. And if you think about it, like, look, pregnancy is a pretty amazing thing. One cell can develop into a fully developed baby, a human being in a matter of months. That is a miracle and a proof of our wonderful Creator. That is miraculous. This is a blessing. How many other blessings do we try to prevent in our lives? Like, why would you want to prevent a blessing? And why does society go to such drastic lengths to prevent something that is so beautiful and profound? Why are we doing that? Like, what's the inherent reason behind it? And, okay, reason number 3. This idea that you must have a ton of kids or use birth control is false. As I stated before, I think that children are a blessing and not something to try to prevent. But if you still are in a position where you really don't want a child or you can't care for a child, you can choose on your self-control to choose when would be a good time to pursue having children. You know, having sex is not the same as, like, eating, in the sense that, like, you don't have to do it to, like, survive. Like, you can live without it, you know? Like, there's another option. It's not like you have, like, 10 to 12 kids or you use birth control. Like, there's a third option. It's called not having sex when you don't want babies. And, you know, you can live without it, especially if it's just for a season. You know, I think that we should seek to glorify God in our bodies and not just seek to glorify our own flesh and our own lusts of the flesh. Now, that doesn't mean that having sex is always inherently selfish. Like, it can be done for the right reasons. But what I'm saying is to intentionally go against the purpose of it and use birth control. I think that's wrong, and I don't think people who are doing that are actually seeking to glorify God. I think they're trying to glorify their own lusts. And people will use, like, 1 Corinthians 7:5 to say that it's a sin to not have sex with your spouse. But let's look at the verse. Notice that the verse says the purpose of this is that Satan won't tempt people who lack self-control. Now, not every single person lacks self-control. I mean, some people have good self-control, and it's also a fruit of the Spirit to be able to control yourself. So, and another point is, notice how Paul said that this is a concession, not a command. So, he's not saying, like, you must have sex with your spouse, otherwise you're in sin. He's saying that people who are lacking self-control, he recommends that they don't abstain because Satan can tempt them. That's what he's saying. And it's a recommendation, not an absolute command. But even if it was an absolute requirement, it doesn't necessarily disprove my position against birth control, because nothing can change the fact that God is in control, and it is not our job to control birth. Even the name birth control is suspicious. Birth control. Since when is life or death in our hands? Another point I'd like to address is that sex isn't the only way, like, you can express love to your partner. Like, there's other ways that you can do that. So if it's like if the problem is intimacy, and that's why, you know, people are taking birth control when they don't want kids because they want to have that intimate connection, like, I just feel like there's other ways to express love. So making this the one and only way, I think that's a problem. Oh, and another thing, the Corinthians passage, even if it is what people think it is, that you absolutely must in all circumstances have sex with your spouse, and it's not just for people who lack self-control, it's for everyone, and it is a command, it's not just like a suggestion. I know I said that having sex is not like eating because you can live without it, but I'm gonna make another analogy just in case that verse hypothetically did mean what people think it means. Okay, it's a similar one, but kind of the opposite analogy. We have to eat to survive, like we got to. But that doesn't mean that we should just be gluttonous and go against the intention for eating in the first place. You know, the purpose of food is to nourish our bodies. And that doesn't mean that we should be eating a bunch of unhealthy food and being gluttonous, because that can lead to health problems. But yeah, again, that's just if that verse hypothetically was an actual absolute command for every single person. My position against birth control would not like fall just because of that verse, because there's a lot more to it. And one more thing I want to point out, that verse, well, not just that verse, but 1 Corinthians, it was written to people who, you know, they were new believers and they weren't really strong in the faith, so they lack self-control. Let me show you this passage right here. Okay, moving on. Reason number 4. It's not healthy. Now, this is a little bit different, but this is specifically about birth control pills, not necessarily other forms of contraception. It's really not normal for us to mess up our natural cycle and take artificial hormones the way we do. You know, the birth control pill, it can have a lot of harmful side effects, and I think this should be prevented if at all possible. God did create our reproductive systems beautifully, and this doesn't need to be altered by a pill. It really doesn't. There's a beautiful design there. But yeah, that's just for the birth control pill, not other forms of contraception, if that makes sense. Okay, moving on. Reason number 5. It promotes casual sex. It makes it easy for people to have sex with someone they don't even love and where there's no commitment. In my opinion, this is wrong and makes something sacred into just a lustful game that people play just because they're horny. That's what it seems like. It's like, I don't know, it just seems like a guy goes to the bar, sees a hot girl, picks her up, you know, and takes her back to his house, and he's like, "Are you on birth control?" And she's like, "Yeah." So they just get it on. And then he takes her back home or something, I don't know. And then they never speak again. And that just seems like what birth control is promoting, and other forms of contraception as well, not just the birth control pill. I mean, I feel like people would be taking this way more seriously if we didn't have contraception. I mean, maybe people still would like just not control themselves, but they would have to realize the consequences of that. And they would probably have to grow up and get a more mature perspective on it. And, you know, the fact that birth control promotes casual sex, it opens up a greater potential for people to be used for sex or used for their body, and that's very, very hurtful, and it's not fair. And I also feel like it might even make like rape more prevalent, because rapists are probably less scared to rape someone, because if they're using any kind of contraceptives, then like that makes it very difficult for pregnancy to happen as a result, and it increases their chances of not getting caught. So that's another concern. And like I said, I just think that people should save sex for the right person and the right reason. And no, I'm not talking about legal marriage. I don't even agree with the legal marriage system. I may even make a video about that in the future. I think what I'm trying to talk about is a spiritual thing. But yeah. So, okay, moving on. Reason number 6. It's just unbiblical, at least in my interpretation. In Genesis, God gave us the command to be fruitful and multiply. And also, we see a consistent theme all throughout the Bible of God opening and closing the womb. Not our job. That's God's job to do that. And also, another point I want to bring up is the story of Onan, I think his name was. Like, he was supposed to have sex with his brother's wife, and I know you may be thinking, ew, that's gross. You know, why would the Bible support him doing that? Well, it was so that his brother's wife could have a child. I think there was probably a reason that his brother couldn't have his own children. I don't know the full context, but that's what he was supposed to be doing. But instead of giving her a child, he spilled his sperm on the ground, and God saw that as wicked and killed him for it. And so I think that's the only mention of any kind of contraceptive I see, like, in the Bible. And what did God do? God killed the person for it. So I think that's a pretty clear statement right there, that it's obviously wrong. And, you know, there's just a theme in the Bible that God is in control of everything, absolutely everything, and God is sovereign, and He formed us in our mother's womb, and it's up to God to open and close the womb. It really is. Okay, so yeah, here are my 6 reasons why I am anti-birth control. And I think at the root of it, what all of this stems from is my love for God and my love for His creation. And I hope you will consider my perspective on this. And no, I absolutely was not brainwashed by Christian fundamentalist parents or a church or something like that. I don't even go to church. I was not raised Christian. Sorry. These are all conclusions that I've come to on my own, and aside from the biblical stuff, I actually agreed with some of these points before I was a Christian. And no, I'm not a Catholic, if anyone is wondering. But yeah, so I hope that this helped you, and I hope that you would think about this and consider my perspective. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I would highly appreciate it if you subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you later. Bye!